Like, how are you around that? Because it isn't like what the way and speaks is like racist kind of thing.
Okay.
And I always say, well, is pro-black loving melanated people racism? Because I don't see him like, he's not saying I hate you, I want to kill you, he's just saying I don't fuck with them because of historical context and present context and where we're at. But I think the perception is that like, oh yeah, but you can't, you hear it a lot like, oh, but you can't fix this thing with racism. So I'm saying, but what to you is racism? When what we're doing is number one, counter narrative, so it's questioning, number one. We're saying we don't like that. And based on that, I don't want to be engaged in that. That's the other thing. And then it's actually saying, I love self, I love my own. I want to build in my own arena, own capacity. So what I find interesting is that people, based on the windows, if I use my concept of windows and mirrors, when they look out the window and they see Ant speak how he speaks, when he's reflecting back in, like questioning, it's like, oh, this is uncomfortable because I now got to go and do work. I've got to go and do research and unpack this thing. When really all they got to say is, I don't want to admit that we're in a place because I want to stay in the escape. I want to stay escaping the reality of what it is. So yeah, no. So we just wanted to kind of touch on that, like.
Doesn't a lot of it come down to right? So if we speak in a very general term,
yeah,
you know, me always being that open-minded person, I'm very tonal. So for example, someone can say something, you could say something, Jay, and Ant could say the exact same thing. You could say it word for word the same, but your tones are different, so I will receive it differently. And I think sometimes it's not. This is me still going out on a whim of assumption as well, though. So people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think sometimes it might be the delivery of how you say things, because you're very strong in what you say and you stand by what you're saying. I think people are more intimidated by that a lot of the time. So it might not be that what you're saying isn't factual. It might not be that what you're saying is too harsh or too black or too. It's not always that. It's the fact that you're not backing down. You're not going in soft. Like if you've got someone that says, "Oh, do you know what? I don't really like the way that people do this, so I'd prefer not to be around it." If you turn around and said, "Oh, if anyone's like that, I'd prefer not to be around them," they'll take that in and, okay, cool, he just doesn't like that. But because you're like, no, I don't F with people that do that. So if you are in that bracket, because you've also said the same thing about certain black people that you feel you can't fuck with either. So at the end of the day, they're not picking those moments out, but it's the energy that you've got when you're speaking, and I feel it's more of that. But again, we go back to the intimidation of a black man kind of thing, because if we go on a whim and say, oh, when Karen does her thing and goes in, no one cares. Why? Because we just that's another Karen.
Sorry.
No, go, Jay.
I was gonna say I'll put it down to comfortability, like because we are a lot of people perceive ourselves to be comfortable. In terms of the physical amenities, like I've got a home, I'm in a space where I can, communicate with white people, I can communicate with Asians, but then if we go beneath the surface, which is what the UK is very good at doing, is hiding everything in plain sight. But you can't go to these people's houses comfortably. You can comfortably deal with them in like society in terms of diversity and inclusion, but when it comes to you doing well for yourself, and doing well is not about attainment, it's understanding the inner workings of yourself and what this thing is. It's like, yo, why are you not doing that? Because you're messing up our comfortability, because they've given us, you should be happy to be here. Do you get what I'm saying? It's that kind of, we think we're comfortable, but we've been programmed in a certain way. But it's like, in reality, when you strip everything, if we remove the idea of success, what is there? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, then we can talk. Because if you can remove the idea of success, like attainment, getting a job and having a house and all these things, without all of that now, are you at peace? And I can bet you most people out there will be like, damn. And not just black people, but white people, all kind of people will be like feeling the same way. So this thing, it needs to be addressed in this way.
I would say the other thing is, like, off of what you said, you've got the whole thing of individual and then you've got group, general. Now, I'm not going to turn around and sit here and say, oh yeah, because I sit here with you guys, I don't really talk to white people, I don't talk to these. I do. I have certain people that I associate with that I can invite into my home and I can go to theirs because we have that. However, it is on an individual basis. So now, where Ant might say, oh, I don't mess with people that XYZ, you might say, I don't mess with people that XYZ, whether it be race, whether it be morals, whether it be values. We all have that amongst our own people outside of our race, people outside of our culture. But the point is, on a grand scheme of things, like, you could pick out, say for example, Jane Elliott. Yeah, I sent you something the other day about what's his name?
Jane Elliott, is that one?
Jane Elliott's the one, the one that does
the older lady.
Yes, and then there was something else that I came across. Is it Wood?
Someone who
something? A guy that was meant to be tried to free the slaves. Yeah, and basically the other whites, or whether it be slave owners or whatever, for them, he was like their worst nightmare because he looked like them but was doing everything against them, right? So if you've got people like that, let's be honest, we're going to see it and say, all right, they're looking through a different lens. Those people are cool, they're all right, because you can almost be comfortable in saying, I can guarantee they'll go out on a limb standing by their morals and principles because they're already doing it. They're already going against the narrative in doing what they're doing. And for her to have been doing it this long, to say it would be for clout would be insane.
100%.
Yeah? So it's not to say, oh, there aren't, but if we're looking on a general level, there are going to be many that on the surface, I support that. But behind closed doors, do you continue that when no one's looking? Do you continue that when no one can hear you? Like, and that's where the issue really lies. So it's all well and good saying, yay, holding up placards saying Black Lives Matter, but when you're in your house sitting there busting joke with the rest of your family, whether it be white, Asian or other, are you still keeping that same energy?
And you know, to add on that, that's the thing, innit? You never know until it's go time. And because we're not at a point of where it actually being go time, we can never know where you stand, no matter what you do, because the reality is you haven't been faced with do you know what? It's either this or it's that.
And to be fair, half the time they don't know.
100%.
Because that's a situation you don't know until you're in it.
I can never know where someone stands until it's actually go time, until that day comes. And that day hasn't come yet. Don't get me wrong, it's like there's been little drills that have happened. You know, it's easy for someone to speak up and rep it when it's convenient.
It's consistency that's missing.
When there's no other option, when there's no other choice, I may not get to experience that. But based on what I do know and based on the many examples prior and now, I can't see how that is beneficial to me, because it's never been beneficial to anyone that looks like me. And I haven't seen an example. I just have to hope and pray that it's something else and hope that it's not the other thing. You can say A, B, and C. That's not enough. I want to see sacrifice. When I step outside, I might not come back home because of how I look. I'm at war when I step outside because of how I look. Not necessarily because of things that I say and stuff, because we all know that there's many of us that don't talk what I talk and are getting licked down for fun, I'm always like at risk of some crazy shit happening that it's not even necessarily like, it's not even aligned with what I'm on. But them, it doesn't apply to them. And because it doesn't apply to them, they let it fly until someone pushes that button of like, all right, now it's time for you to actually care. And that's convenient. It's convenient that people will speak up when it's time to care. But I've got to see that for what it is. Are you sacrificing your life to make things right? Because this is the thing. If shit ain't made right with us, right, then nothing can't run properly, smoothly. You lot have to make that right. Because if we're the first people who were here, guess what? Surely you would have to make things right with where it starts in order for things to function. Because I can tell you what, if we had the power that they had, things would run differently. People would really experience peace. The principles are balance for us. It's about life for us, not death. So if we ever are in a position to have that power, guess what? Things will run differently and people will truly experience or know what love, peace, and vibes really is.
As you said, and the language is where I find the problem, because when you remove language to me is a form of escapism, escaping to your death. But when you remove that, that's where things come alive, because you can't escape. You can't with words. You just got to deal with it. And it's crazy because when you look at society and you look at, like, let's look at London for instance, all the other communities, generically speaking, they don't mix. The Jews don't mix, Asians don't mix, in terms of Bengalis don't mix with, they don't even mix with Pakistanis. Do you get what I'm saying? Albanians don't mix, Polish don't mix. Everyone has their own.
Until everyone comes here.
Until they get taught to inclusive and all this stuff.
You live in Eurocentric.
So we're not saying there isn't a space for inclusion in terms of trading and learning about different cultures and all that stuff, but it's the ability to nurture and grow with your own, and have a sense of pride and have a sense of like connectivity to your own and ancestors. And it's like, obviously for them to do, for the melanated community to be one of the only that is being attacked on so many levels, that tells you alone the power that they want to diminish that power. And so all in my mind, what you're doing, bro, is you're just questioning what we're taught. Really, it's not it's, to me it's love. But it's people's perception of themselves. So really, you know, when people are saying, oh, it's hate, that's how you perceive it. So really, when you've got the white mind, because in my mind, if someone's saying we need to stick with our own, we need to love ourselves, we need to build our foundations, how is that perceived as hate? So then you must have a threat, which is probably, you're not the original you then. You're infiltrated. Because I'm mixed, but I get it. Do you get what I'm saying? I get because I see it in every other, like, I'm like, I can't go to a Bengali's house. They will tell me, don't bring that guy to my house. You know what they also do? They'll study my family. Has he got money? Can he support you? They'll ask for things. We can't even do that, even if we wanted to. But yet this gold is coming from where? It's coming from us. So it's like, there's so many levels to it, in terms of religion, in terms of education, spiritualism, food, DNA, understanding cultural things, male and woman operating beside each other.
Like I said in the beginning, the way you speak, when you're not speaking, you're very quiet. You're kind of either or. The rest of us will kind of chime in, thoughts, opinions, questions, this, that. You're very blunt. You're very
clear. You're not on the fence.
You're very
You're on your.
Yeah. For me, I don't sit on the fence, but for the times that I sit on the fence because I genuinely don't know which side, or I can see bits of both. So I don't feel within myself I'm in a position to say here and now this is what it is. So I don't sit on the fence to say, oh, let me just be fair. It's where I'm not picking, because if I don't know, why am I going to pick? Do you know what I mean? Whereas for you, if everything's very clear and that's always what I'm picking, it doesn't matter if it's black, white, grey, green. If you're always gonna go for grey, you're always gonna go for grey. And because you're so direct with it, and because you, as I said, the tone, the choice of words, the everything, it's just the amalgamation of everything you put together, it kind of makes you stand out within the group. So it's always easy to pick out the one who stands out in the group, and you don't necessarily stand out because, oh my gosh, he's so different. There's been times we've all said it, we're like, well, like, probably more before in the beginning, but there's been times where we're like, yo, that was wild. Yeah. And this is us amongst ourselves. And sometimes the things that you say as well, it's not what you said, it's like, no, the way you said that sounded wild. But then you've gone to elaborate and we're like, okay, cool, we get it. It makes sense. But
it's like women.
It's that.
Like, I've had people say to me, he doesn't like women.
Crazy.
But you?
Me?
I'm just saying,
crazy.
How? Do you know how he speaks about women? It's crazy.
That's interesting.
But I think it's your ability to be comfortable in uncomfortability and communicate that. And be.
Do you know what I feel like? I feel like that's probably more personal.
Of course, it's personal.
But when I say it, I feel like anything you've described maybe about not liking in a woman, they've probably seen it in themselves. Does that make sense? So if he says I don't like this, I don't like that.
I can't trust what they say. Something like that. Okay. Then they're like, that's when they switch off. They don't think, well, let me get to why. They get, but then he doesn't trust what we say.
Bear in mind.
Like, okay, so you've just robbed yourself of the ability to understand what's going on here.
And for the first time, I'm not going to say this as a woman.
I
know my line is usually the opposite way. I'm going to say this, and this is only because I've had to do a lot of self-reflection. As a woman, I'll say many of us, if you've heard that from someone personally in your life, in a situation, or people around you, and then it starts becoming like a thing that you hear, what then happens is when you say it, she's associating you with them people that she's heard saying it. Now, you now have become one of these guys, but she doesn't know you. So you and these guys could be worlds apart, but because you're using the same lines, she's going to assume it's for the same reasoning. And if she has an issue with these guys, I see what the problem is. So now her defense is up. Like you said, rather than hearing out the rest of it and thinking, okay, maybe he's got a point there. Or even just saying, well, maybe it's just the type of women he's talking about. Maybe I am not that woman. The offence is taken on. The offence can only be taken on if you put yourself in that group too.
You know what I think they should do? Did you finish? Sorry.
Yeah, go.
Watch the whole video.
I mean, to be fair, that's something that most people that have an opinion
when
should
I ask them, I'm like, did you watch?
Well, I didn't get the time, you know. Not gonna lie, I just saw the snippet.
So you formed an opinion and you didn't watch the whole thing. Okay, so it makes sense.
You don't know what came before, you don't know what came after. Or sometimes they should actually ask.
I don't really get to have the interactions that you lot have, and if it does happen, it comes in a very weird way. It's just so weird. It's like people not being direct, and it's like, yo, like, I would never speak to you about the matters that I'm speaking on camera. What makes you think I want to have this conversation with you now? That's not how our relationship is. One example is, some guys are literally in relationships with white women, right? And because of that reason, they will express certain things. And it's like, Is this a conversation that you're supposed to be having with me?
Or
Or with yourself? Yo, like, I'm not the one to be spoken to here, you know?
They're gonna
like,
end up triggered.
like, no,
Speak to
like,
yourself.
my,
They're gonna end
like,
up triggered.
I haven't come to link you, to speak to you about your insecurities. That's not that's not what our relationship is. So the fact that you feel like, say, you have to say something or try and prove a point, to me, that might be what you need, but I can assure you, I want no parts of that shit. Because it's not honest.
Yeah.
Just tell me that you're in pain.
Mm.
Tell me that you've got some inner turmoil going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's like, tell me that you've got turbulence going on within you and you don't understand it. But you see what it is? If the conversation comes in like that, then I know, because look, an individual doesn't want to necessarily say, yo, like, that hurt me.
Yeah.
Wait, how did it hurt you? Because I didn't put hands on you. I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't even talking at you. This is all about narrative. This is all about changing the narrative. This is all about the counter narrative. This is about the other side. This is about the side that they don't want us to speak about. That's what it's about. It's not about you. So the fact that you can even come to me and have a conversation about something that isn't going to be straightforward and honest, you want to kind of like take a backdoor route to get into some kind of dialogue that we've never ever had, minus me talking how I talk on camera. Don't insult me. Don't insult yourself. Like, be honest. So it's like,
That's what it is. I think it's I think when I speak to a lot of people who particularly view you as hates women or racist on the other way to white people, whatever, I'm like, is there pain here?
of course there's
Which
pain.
is often the case. Like, there's pain here, and it's like,
or confusion.
It's pain and confusion, and it's like, if I admit that he's potentially on a path that I have to unpack. That's the reality of it. I've got, like, for me, I've had to, bro, you used to say some shit to me that I was like, wild. But then I unpacked, and then I'm like, oh shit, he's on the money. Does it make sense? So that's the other side, is we can't really penny what people say because of we're ahead of the game. Essentially, what we're trying to do is show them, yo, you know, there's another door. That's the door that you kind of want to be going down, because your people are in through that door. Do you know what I mean? But I just like, and I guess it's just a different frequency. So like, it's not to say, because you know, when people hear different frequency, they think higher or lower. No, it's just different. So when you see me, like, I'm not like, people will see me now, and I've had conversations with people who would consider my people, or people, my friends or associates, whatever, and they're moving like uncomfortable. I'm saying, they're like, is everything alright? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But when you communicate and say, like, actually, I'm just like peaceful, I don't need to prove. Like, when I was younger, and I explained to them, like, when I was younger, there was a bit of proving myself. So there's a character I was playing to please everyone. I don't need to do that now. I can be here in peace. I honour you all as my brothers. I can also see the pain. Let's talk about the pain.
Let's get better.
Then we can reason, and we can have even more beautiful conversations and grow together.
Let's have a
real conversation.
Right, but let's also have a relationship that's not based on the aggressive indoctrination.
Yeah.
Let's have a healthy conversation. Let's actually see each other. Let's talk to one another. Like, let's actually feed ourselves with that pure food that ain't been tampered with. The feelings, right? Let's actually tap in like that. Let's feel. Let's truly feel. We can't do that if we're operating off of the old versions of ourselves, which have been conditioned to self-destruct. We just can't do that,
like,
right?
If we look at where people are operating from, they're not operating here. Like, I'm growing up, I'm reflecting, I'm like, did I ever have a conversation with any of my brothers or sisters and hold my heart when I'm talking? or just be like, let's talk from the heart. No, but the science tells you now that this is where this is the brain of your system,
bro. What you're saying?
And I'm like,
that's
so we're here, we're doing this, and you're like, okay, cool, but how comes we're not doing that? And like, for me, when I'm in my feeling, obviously they're also trying to tap you out. Don't get in your feelings. Why are you in your feelings? They say it. That's the gateway to where you need to go, but they try to make you go back to like,
they don't want you to
in your
release
feelings.
that
You need to be in your
energy.
feelings.
And it goes back to one of the videos that we done way back when, and I said, love is what you know and love is what you don't know. The reason why I always said what I said about love is like, I know the love that I've been programmed on and the love that's been forced down my throat. I know what that sounds like. I know what that looks like. I reject that love completely, right? When I started tapping in to information that showed me another way, when we speak about self-hate, you know, one of the only cures, if not the only cure, is self-love, right? That starts with you loving yourself and your people. That starts with me as a melanated man loving a melanated woman. That starts with me knowing the relationship between the black man and the black woman, and the lack of teaching that we've had, or, you know, us being in our natural state at one point and us being ripped away from what truly is the difference between love. When I speak how I speak, they can't hear the fact that all that I'm saying is, I want us to get back right first, together, so we can honestly show up if we want to. Let us show up for ourselves properly, so then we can think about showing up for you. Because the reality is, we're in a situation now where our one enemy that has been consistent throughout history, right? We want to cozy up with them. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Because we come from a place that gave us everything that we needed in abundance, we don't need to cause harm on no one. That's just us, naturally. We don't need to cause harm. Because you lot came from a lack of, you had to go rape, rob, kill and steal. Do you get what I mean? That's what you had to do. We don't come from that. Hence why, don't get me wrong, we've been conditioned to not see you for who you truly are, just based on your character throughout the years. How is it that you can see people that don't look like you in pain and not make it a priority to make it right when you can? There are certain things that you can do that we can't do. We always end up being the token. You are savior. The collective majority, the savior, the one who can, the great white hope, but you're failing miserably. So everything that I've ever said is based on us loving each other correctly, cleaning up our minds so we can consciously make a decision to either give you that opportunity again or cutting you off. And whatever decision that we come to, we're in our right minds to make that decision based on past and present. So when these lot talk about hate, it's because it goes against their idea of love, and they know that, oh, if they figure this shit out and they get their shit right, that might not include us, because they can see that we've always used them and we're comfortable with them being absolutely ignorant.
And our people have never been included anyway, because the fact that you needed something called inclusion
just goes to show
diversity, inclusion and illusions,
it's in your language.
Why would you need inclusion if it's a natural thing to include people? Like, you're already included in the human race, so why would you need to be included? It's like the psychology of this stuff is so in your face, but it's us not being honest. It's us not being like, okay, cool.